With RAM prices absolutely insane, you may have a new fear unlocked, which is what if something goes wrong and you need to pursue a warranty claim? And there seem to be a wave of reports describing similar behavior, specifically from Crucial, where they have been processing RMA requests, saying that shipping is on the way, then saying, wait a minute, our business got shut down, we can't process this, offering refunds at the original purchase price, which may be $259 for a RAM kit that would currently be valued at almost $2,000. But then worst of all is that if the user then says, wait a minute, just give me my RAM back, because if I shipped in like the whole kit, which might have had 2 sticks where one was still working, but you purchased them as a kit, so you send them in as a kit, now Crucial is saying that they can't even find the one that was still working. Keep in mind that the one working 64 gigabyte module here would easily be worth multiple times the value that they're offering as the refund in the current market. This is completely unacceptable, but perhaps Crucial feels like they can get away with this because the Crucial business has been shut down. Remember that Crucial was the consumer-facing memory brand for Micron, but Micron found out that they could make way more money just selling to AI data centers, where it's estimated that their current gross margin selling to data centers is as high as 95%, so they shut down their consumer-facing Crucial business. So unfortunately, people who purchased Crucial memory are now talking to warranty claims where they say they can no longer supply a replacement, but somehow they processed and may have lost or disposed of the working kits when they were initially told that a replacement was on the way. More on this in a second, but first, I'm gonna show you guys something that's really embarrassing. I haven't dusted my video editing PC in years, and it's getting really disgusting, leading to higher temperatures and fan noise levels. Today is finally the day, but when dusting electronics, it's important to use the proper tools to do a high-quality job without damaging the equipment. And so I'm using the Wolfbox MegaFlow 200 air duster, and a huge thanks to Wolfbox for sponsoring this part of today's video. Unlike canned air, there is no risk of liquid spray, and you get stable airflow and a rechargeable battery, rather than decreasing air pressure as the can empties, not to mention avoiding the environmental impact of the single-use disposable cans. The MegaFlow 200 can hit peak wind speed of up to 87.5 meters per second, but has 3 adjustable levels and 4 interchangeable nozzles to adapt perfectly to your use case. After cleaning my PC, I was inspired to dust off my keyboards and was shocked how much dust and cat hair was hidden under the keys. Gross! I also took care of my speakers, headphones, and even remembered that I should be blowing out the filters in the AC units in my kids' bedrooms, and the MegaFlow 200 was the perfect tool for the job. I even tried it outside for a little bit of leaf blowing duty to clean up for a barbecue I'm having later. Overall, I'm really impressed that such a lightweight and portable design can pack such a heavy-duty punch. Check the link in the video description and pinned comment for a great deal. Now, there are other news stories I want to talk about today, but I do want to go a little further into what is going on with all these people posting about the Crucial RAM situation. So let's dig into this latest post here from Levaniest, might be mispronouncing it, 21 hours ago as of the time of filming here. And again, this has similar things have been being reported by multiple users. So he's saying that basically on July 1st, he had Crucial approve an RMA to send their RAM back. Now, here's one of the really key details to why I am so fired up over this particular situation. He was specifically told that once the product is received, your replacement should arrive within 14 to 21 business days. And this is being put in direct quotes. Now, I have to say that I am just reading somebody's post on Reddit, and people, believe it or not, are capable of lying or making things up on the internet. So I have to, preface all of this with, this is just relying on what this person is saying happened to them. We're not seeing all of the email records and whatnot. But this is being given as a direct quote saying that their replacement should arrive within 14 to 21 business days. So then they shipped the RAM back to them. And this is the big thing, is that this user would not likely have actually shipped in the RAM at all if they had not been told that they would be receiving a replacement. If they had been told that all they would get is the original purchase price, and that was all that Crucial could do, then they likely would not have shipped it in the first place. But this is not only going to be disastrous in that they actually can't do the replacement, but it seems like they may have actually lost the product, and so the user can't actually get their RAM back. One of the two sticks was working, because remember, to process this RMA, they're sending in the whole 128 gigabyte kit, which was 2 sticks of 64 gigabyte RAM, which is pretty dang expensive right now, and one of those sticks was working, but they were sent in together as part of the RMA request. So they shipped it back to them. Then on July 28th, after the, Crucial had the RAM, they got another email, again quoting the replacement order number. So at this point, it said they were given they would be given tracking information once the order went out. So from this user's perspective, they've sent in their RAM. They've been told they will get a replacement. There's been an order number created. All of this, and remember, they only sent it in the first place when they were told that a replacement would be given. Great. But then it got up to August 15th, hadn't heard anything, so user reaches out again, and Crucial replies with, now this one's not given as a direct quote. Now I've kind of researched what the direct quote probably was, so user summarizing it as, sorry, we shut down the Crucial consumer business, we're out of RAM, and we're not shipping your replacement. Now, since other people have been reporting this same problem, other people have given a direct quote of the email they received from Crucial. So I'm switching to a different angry Crucial customer here, but they seem to be giving a direct quote of what this email said. Please note that effective immediately, we are no longer able to offer replacement products for warranty claims. The only available resolution is a refund of the original purchase price, including any applicable taxes. This is because Crucial closed its consumer business earlier this year and has exhausted its remaining inventory. As a result, we no longer have replacement stock available and can only provide a refund of the original purchase price, including any applicable taxes. So, that's probably the same email that this user received in its direct quote. So basically, after being told they would be able to get a replacement, they are then later being told that they can no longer give a replacement. Naturally, the user is upset because they wouldn't have sent this in the first place if they had known that this would be the case. Again, they're only being offered $259.99 for a RAM kit that would be valued closer to $2,000 today. So this user obviously upset, pushes back saying, if you can't fulfill the replacement order you already created, I think you should compensate me at a reasonable current replacement cost of the existing product, and then basically gets told that's not the company policy. They just refund the original purchase price. Now, if this was the end of it, and then the user said, okay, so give me my working stick back, and then they got it back, that would be one thing. But now we're kind of into a bit of a problem, because now this customer has asked for that exact thing to take place. They've said, okay, I'm not happy with this situation. Give me the working RAM stick back that I gave you in the first place, thinking that I would be given a replacement kit, not a refund price. So here's the update to that. So this was Crucial's reply. We understand your request to have the original memory kit returned to you, particularly since one of the modules was still functional when it was sent back. At this time, I have reached out to our warehouse RMA team to check whether your original memory kit is still available. If the product has not yet been processed or disposed of and is still available, we will let you know as soon as we receive an update from the team. Please note that if the original kit is still available, you would like it returned to you, you will be required to provide a prepaid return shipping label for us to arrange the shipment back to your address. Once we hear back from the team regarding the availability of the product, we will update you accordingly. Okay, so I'm jumping in here for one thing, not that I have the biggest voice in this space or anything like that, and potentially maybe Gamers Nexus will get in on this, because on one of the older posts, I did see Gamers Nexus mentioning that they'd like to cover this kind of thing and will be reaching out to contacts. So I'm hoping there'll be a bigger piece coming from Gamers Nexus to get more light on this situation. They have a much bigger reach than I do. But unfortunately, in the current state of dealing with consumer, companies dealing with consumers, getting attention on social media posts, etc., sometimes is the only way to get treated fairly. So I'm going to just say that this is unacceptable as it's worded here. So I understand if the Crucial business, as a division of Micron, no longer has any actual RAM chips to ship a replacement, and I also understand if their policy is to refund the original price. That sucks for the end user, but I can kind of understand that. But this response basically saying, hey, I know we told you we'd give you a replacement kit, but since we can't now, we'll look into it. If we happen to have not disposed of the one you sent to us, we'll let you know. But even if we find it, you're going to have to pay for us to ship it back to you. This is completely unacceptable. So I understand that if they're starting to do new RMA requests, if there's a new RMA request where the beginning of the RMA is customer emails them and then they reply with, we no longer have supply, we can refund you the original price if you send it in, but we can't give you a replacement, that's all we can do, then I would understand that a little bit more. But remember that the beginning of this process was this user being told that they would be given a replacement for this product. That's what they were told, and then they shipped the RAM back. So they only shipped in this RAM under the understanding that they would be given a replacement, not a refund, a replacement. So for any user who is kind of caught in this time overlap where they had been told they'd be able to get a replacement and they ship it in under those conditions, and then later after shipping, they've altered the terms of the deal and are now only offering the replacement, the refund at the original purchase price, which sucks. I wish the company would do better, but I can at least kind of understand that. This is where they need to do better. The people who are caught in this little time loop there, right, where they were told one thing and then the terms of the deal have been altered, Crucial needs to do better. They need to actually make this right. So they need to find this RAM kit or purchase a replacement on their own and lose money on it to get them their RAM kit back if they want it, because it's their fault. This is, Crucial is at fault here. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the legality of the situation, but I do know what should be done in this situation. They should make this right. And remember that the current estimates for Micron, who was the big company that manufactured the RAM, and Crucial was their consumer-facing business, is that their gross margins are approaching 95%. Micron is not hurting on money here. They could fund the people who happen to be caught up in this little RMA loop where they were told they'd get a replacement and then they didn't. There's money at this company or the parent company where this can be taken care of. People could have things made right. They just need to choose to do that. So I think the more that we can pressure them to do so, the better. And like I said, this is just one of many users who seems to be reporting the same type of situation. Now, this older post from a couple of weeks ago did get a lot more attention. Like I said, it looks like Gamers Nexus had replied on it, and it does look like they ended up getting a follow-up with a better resolution on one of this older posts. So I'm hoping at the same time we can get a better resolution here for this user. But yeah, this is definitely feeding into those fears right now of, man, if the working gaming PC that you have right now breaks down, it could be in a rough situation. Now, the Crucial situation is especially bad because, again, the Crucial brand was shuttered by Micron because they'd rather just sell to AI data centers rather than have a consumer-facing business at all. Now, getting into some more news stories, we're seeing some additional information regarding the PC pricing situation. Remember, that's not just RAM that's gone insane. It's also NAND, which would be used in SSDs. And we have the Phison CEO warning that NAND supply won't meet demand for 4 years, which he says would be locking in higher SSD prices through 2030. Now, again, the Phison CEO might be, well, in addition to having lots of information about the topic, would also have a maybe vested interest in keeping prices up. So making statements like this, you do always have to think about who is making these statements. But at the same time, everybody's saying, when is this going to get better? Nobody actually knows when this will get better. But all the current predictions seem to be pointing at multiple years of high SSD and RAM pricing. Now, also, when we look at the more of the GPU side of things, we have the owner of ZOTAC. Now, ZOTAC, AIB manufacturer, for GPUs, they're owned by PC Partner. And PC Partner has issued a financial statement where the details are sounding pretty bad, especially for entry-level GPUs, not just for prices, but actual availability shortages. So all my sources will be in the video description. I found this at videocards.com, but this is the statement made by PC Partner in their financials saying, a commentary at the date of the announcement of the significant trends and competitive conditions of the industry in which the group operates and any known factors or events that may affect the group in the next reporting period and the next 12 months. Again, this is a statement for financial stuff for investors, etc. So where they're supposed to be giving, they can't mislead investors, right? They're supposed to be giving a honest take on what they expect to be coming up here to investors rather than a PR statement. So here's what they're saying. The PC market remains highly challenging, with significant supply constraints driving sharp increases in component costs and, in turn, slowing consumer demand for the PC market. In addition, graphics memory costs are expected to rise further, leading to a substantial increase in VGA card costs in the second half of the year. The quantity of VGA card shipments declined substantially in the first half of fiscal year 2026 as compared with the second half of fiscal year 2025, and availability of VGA cards is likely to decline further in the second half of fiscal year 2026. Beyond the price increases, entry-level VGA cards are expected to face even more severe shortages, which may further drive average sales price upward in the second half of fiscal year 2026. So basically, this statement is saying that prices have gone up and consumer demand has gone down, but at the same time, they're expecting that the prices will go up even further as VRAM gets more expensive. And they're also expecting that the supply itself will go down. Remember that companies like ZOTAC are getting their GPU chips and memory from NVIDIA. AMD does a similar thing where they supply those. And so it's sounding like the availability will decline, and they're saying that's beyond the price increases. They're expecting entry-level cards specifically to face more severe shortages, which could even more drive up the sales prices. So entry-level graphics cards specifically, but also graphics cards in general, could be getting worse as we go into the second half of the year, not better. Perhaps this is playing into why we got such a disappointing release from AMD in the low-end space with the RX 9050. Now, Hardware Unboxed did finally get one, so we now have a nice full review from Hardware Unboxed on the 9050. But one of the things kind of making headlines like this one out of that review is kind of the weird situation on Hardware Unboxed, how they were able to obtain one, or how it was a kind of secret. They couldn't say which 9050 they had or what company it was that they sourced it from. Now, to kind of explain a little bit about the behind the scenes. So sometimes a GPU company like AMD or NVIDIA will have their own review program for a product, and they will organize shipping those out to reviewers. But they don't do that for certain launches. And, that's obviously well within their rights. They are not required in any way to ship out review samples to reviewers. There's reasons why having review programs is a good thing, but they don't have to do that. So AMD did not do a review program for the 9050. However, here's where things get a little bit strange. So a channel like Hardware Unboxed has contacts at AIB manufacturers, computer stores, etc. And within those, they can often source a review sample not from AMD or NVIDIA directly. So in this case, since AMD is not sending out review samples, if Hardware Unboxed has contacts at various AIB manufacturers, they can ask them for a 9050 to review. And then it could be that company's decision on whether they find it worthwhile to send out one of their 9050s. And then in the Hardware Unboxed review, they can say, I have it from this company, whichever company that is. They can show you the thermals, etc. And so that company gets theirs to be the one featured in the review. So oftentimes companies will want to do this. They will want to give their version of the card out to a reviewer because the cost of that card to them is nothing compared to the exposure they'll get from their card being in the video, right? So what's kind of weird here is it sounds like Hardware Unboxed found somebody who was willing to give them one for the review, but they were being told behind the scenes by AMD not to do so because AMD apparently didn't want this reviewed. So Hardware Unboxed was able to source one, and the company was apparently willing to ship it out and not even get any exposure for doing so. In fact, they had to ask that Hardware Unboxed not say whose card it was or feature that in the video because apparently they would fear some sort of backlash from AMD for shipping out a sample. So that just shows that AMD not only is so unwilling to stand by this product, that they're not having their own review program for it, but that they're pressuring their AIB manufacturers to also not send out review samples to such an extent that apparently those companies fear backlash from AMD to the point where they would ship out a sample to, I guess, maintain the relationship with Hardware Unboxed, but ask that it not be featured in the video. That's very, very strange. Now, I'm not going to show you their full review data, so check out the Hardware Unboxed video for that, but the general result overall, it did vary game by game and by resolution. At 1080p, the 9050, this is the 8GB version, not the 4GB version, which we would expect to be much worse, but Hardware Unboxed has not sourced a 4GB sample yet. The 9050 8GB version is a little bit better than an RX 6600 and an RTX 3050, but is slower than a 6650 XT, which, by the way, you could get for around $200 for multiple years over the last several years. They're out of stock now, but that's the kind of performance we're looking at here. And an RTX 5050, which is available still for around $300. And remember, the RX 9050 is theoretically like a $280 card. We'll see if it hits the MSRP. Came in, so the 9050 8GB averaging 49 FPS, the 5050 averaging 59 FPS, which is 20-ish% faster. So that's pretty bad. Also, AMD's last generation RX 7600 averaging 60 FPS, so a little over 20% faster at 1080p resolution. Now, the 9050 did close the gap with the 5050 at 1440p, but both cards getting pretty slow for those results anyway. But the point is, it looks like AMD is launching a card that is significantly worse than an RTX 5050 for basically the same price. Now, there's certain regions that this is targeted at, and I don't know those regions, specific pricing, what things look like there, so we'll have to see what happens. But yeah, but apparently things might get even worse for entry-level GPUs in the coming months. So I don't know, maybe the RX 9050 was trying to be priced at what will be the market in the future as opposed to what the market looks like now, because AMD already knows things are getting worse. And this is just a harbinger of things to come. I don't know. Now, another harbinger of things to come is that, well, monitors have remained a bright spot for a while. In my previous news video, I mentioned that AOC had mentioned that monitor prices will have to increase in China at least, starting in August. KTC is now the second monitor manufacturer that I've been able to find that is talking about price increases coming. Now, it doesn't seem like their statement has mentioned a particular time, just that they're gonna have to be coming soon. So the full KTC statement saying that due to the continued rise in the prices of core components globally, the production cost of monitors has increased significantly, and we can no longer absorb the pressure on their own. Therefore, we must inform you of a reality. KTC's monitor product line may see a price increase in the future. To minimize the impact on users, we're communicating fully with our suppliers to secure more buffer time. For users with a clear need to purchase a device in the future, the current pricing window offers excellent value for money. We recommend planning your purchase time accordingly. Basically, they're saying that they're probably going to have to increase prices soon, so recommending users buy now. Now, again, similar to what I'm saying with the Phison CEO, maybe having some benefit of saying this, so buy now, it's going to get worse and it's going to stay bad, so don't wait. Monitor manufacturers may have that same kind of incentive to say, hey, you should buy right now. Now's the best time to buy. But at the same time, we're now starting to see multiple monitor manufacturers saying that that component prices are going up to explain why prices either are going up now or will be going up soon. KTC not giving a direct date or anything exactly. Now, I'll also mention when I cover KTC that I have been sponsored by KTC monitors in the past. I actually use a bunch of them myself, and I do have another a KTC monitor sponsorship coming up this month. So I do want to disclose that just because I feel like that's the right thing to do when covering stuff that I have been sponsored by recently and am sponsored by in the near future. But this is just news topic that I'm bringing up, just like I brought up the AOC one, which I have not been sponsored by in the past or have any arrangements in the future. Anyway, other GPU news is that HYDRA Tool has apparently opened up some additional overclocking ability on RTX 50 GPUs, where the memory can now be pushed to 36 gigabits per second and 125% power limits, which is above what NVIDIA was giving access to. Now, I found this at WCCF Tech, and when looking through it, I was kind of interested in maybe trying to test this out. However, it seems like it maybe isn't actually released yet. They're saying the first release of HYDRA with these features also carries experimental support for NVIDIA's RTX Pro 6000 GPUs, and the release is currently planned for next week. It will initially be available to early access members of the HYDRA utility, with a public release planned for later. But maybe something to keep an eye on if you're big on the overclocking scene. Now, I'm not really big on overclocking. Personally, sometimes I cover it on the channel just because there's interest, but I tend to prefer the stability of just running everything at stock out of the box settings. But I know a lot of people do enjoy overclocking their stuff. Now, if you would be fearing an RMA if something went wrong, maybe not the best time to push the absolute limits of your computer hardware if things are just getting more and more expensive. But most overclocking stuff, it doesn't have serious consequences or anything, but not sure yet on this additional headroom that they're trying to push into here. So just general thoughts on overclocking there. And PlayStation 6 launch date has yet to be decided, according to Sony's CEO. This is yet another statement of similar statement saying that they're really not sure when they're going to be launching this. But it's kind of combined with some other statements regarding traditional businesses are important. I have great respect for these businesses, but at the same time, we need to change. Talking more about, integrating games and anime. A CEO's most important task is simply making sure the business survives. Considering that importance, we need to take some action. Otherwise, we cannot survive in this landscape. Talking about the hardware pricing and all of that. So there's just, man, do you guys feel the general feeling of just doom and gloom around gaming hardware, consumer hardware for gaming, that kind of stuff, where just Prices are going crazy. The PS6, like, it seems like they're kind of ready to go with that, but component availability and pricing probably means it would be a really bad idea to launch it anytime soon. But then are prices going to get any better, or are they just going to get worse, as the Phison CEO is claiming, right? So how long can they wait before launching it? Do things ever get better? Do they just get worse? I really wish that my PC hardware news videos were a little bit more uplifting right now. So let me just say that, there's a lot of really good, games in your backlog, or older games that are available for great prices right now. You can play older stuff. That's what I've been doing. So, and like I said, maybe there'll be some silver lining, and I think the cross-gen period will have to be extremely long. So games will still be targeted at PS5 hardware, even if the most advanced graphic settings target the PS6. So I think that you'll be able to hold on to your PC hardware for a long time, and still get a lot of good use out of it, although, hopefully nothing goes wrong, especially if you bought Crucial. So let's put some pressure on them to try to make these RMA situations right for the people trapped in that situation. Hopefully you guys found the video useful and or interesting, and despite all the negative hardware news and prices, I hope you still managed to have an excellent day.